चलिए स्टार्ट कीजिए।
आपके बच्चे प्रोजेक्ट आ जाएगा।
गैप जैसे दिख रहा है, गैप को भी फिल नहीं करना है।
अपना
Let us start. I welcome all of you to this session. Today I am with my topic, storytelling in classroom. As we all know that storytelling is an important aspect of education, especially in the process of learning and teaching. Storytelling, as we all know, and we all have been already told in our childhood by our grandparents. We used to tell, stories of myths from religious scriptures, from Mahabharatas, Ramayana. We all have been told by our parents and grandparents stories. The purpose of their storytelling to us in our childhood was very simple: to instill values, to educate on different aspects of our society or the worldly affairs. Similar is the case here. Now the time may have changed and the teaching and learning process might have changed dramatically, but still this storytelling in learning and teaching process plays an important role in our life. So, previous. यही है, फर्स्ट लाइन ये है, सेकंड ओके हाँ, इससे पहले. So we all have been told by our grandparents the stories of religious books like Mahabharata, Ramayana, Panchtantra. The purpose was simple, just to instill value of humanity, social values, and some vital knowledge related to our worldly life. The same is still being carried earlier in our old education system. The teaching and learning process was very much traditional. In earlier time, as we all know, that some chopais from Ramayana or Mahabharata slokas were given in our textbooks. The purpose of those texts, those slokas or chopais were simple: to instill value, core value of our society into our life, and also teach some vital aspects of our worldly affairs. Like when we were taught about Mahabharata, why did this battle took place, what was the cause, we learned so many things from the story of Mahabharata and Ramayana and such other stories. Similarly, today I'll be discussing this story, and through this we would like to, I would like to, let you know some very vital information which storytelling in the classroom plays. It is very essential for each and every subject. It is not only limited to language classes or social science classes. Storytelling is also important for science classes as well. and even in computer and technology classes, because the stories are of varied. So today the instructional objectives will be to understand the meaning of a storytelling, to develop an understanding about the importance of storytelling, to understand the role of storytelling in the development of social values among students, to familiarize learners about different type of stories used in the storytelling methods. So these are the main feature of this topic which I will be discussing here. When we talk about stories, as stories are powerful means of language teaching. A skillful teacher can use a story to develop more efficient listening, more fluent speaking, and the ability to read and write easily and competently. When we teach a story, the story is not taught only for the sake of entertainment. It carries a lot of information with it. We try to instill a number of information through that story when we narrate in our classroom. Similarly, telling a story is not a theoretical thing or just a oral. You know, it is very much practical. I would say it is 100% practical. Like when we narrate a story, the learner or students they listen the way we speak. So this way they imitate our language. The vocabulary, the sentence arrangements that we speak in the classroom, they also copy us. They also learn vocabulary. There are so many things, our physical appearance, gesture, posture, and everything that we use in our classroom during a storytelling. So, if we use this efficiently, then we will be able to instill among the students, they will be able to speak fluently, listen carefully, and they would be able to read and write easily. Next lesson. A storytelling, as I have given already small synopsis about it. Like a storytelling is a traditional. It's a traditional way of teaching methodology. Though people nowadays call it outdated method, but I don't agree with them because though it is a very traditional, ancient method of teaching and learning process, but still it is a very much practical. And I would say this is the only method by which we can teach our young children so many things, especially in the classes of language, social science, and even science. So, though it is a traditional, primitive, in old times we all know that our ancestors, when there was no writing transcription law developed, at that time they transferred their knowledge through listening and speaking process. Shruti and Smriti, which we all know that Vedas, Rig Veda, was written during 600 BC, is was carried on for many generations, for many hundred of years, just by listening and speaking. Primitive, modern, and psychological method. It's a very much psychological. Like when we narrate a story, we try to hypnotize our student. They get lost in the story, and whatever message or thing we want to tell them, they get it completely with the help of a story. So it becomes very important. Usually, it is used by grandparents for entertaining and enlightening their children in social science and language classes. It is very much important, as I said it earlier. It is used as an art of narration language when we are telling a story in a classroom. So, if you have a command of language, and a teacher must have, maybe a teacher teaching different subject, not Hindi or English or any language class. Even in the science classes, even maths classes, they can correlate their mathematical formulas to some event, to some stories, and by telling them with the help of a story, the formulas, the student will be easily getting all these. A story is presented in the form of verse and prose. Two types of stories, process of telling. One is narrated in story form, and the other is it is sung, like in the form of verse, poetry, which we call. Teacher does performance before large audience. When a teacher is teaching the students, it is not only that what they are speaking, what the teacher is speaking to the students, they only listen, they also watch the body language, the gesture, posture of the teacher, the positioning of the teacher in the classroom, and by imitating them, they try to implement it in their life when they are out of the classroom. The stories are presented in chanted, spoken or sung form. Chanted means it can be said in like mantras used to be chant or mantras. It can be spoken or sung. In all forms, we can narrate a story. It is not only limited to that we narrate a story in for prose form. Accompaniment like music, pictures can be added. When you are teaching in a classroom, you can use some kind of picture, diagram, some other visual objects by which you can reflect you are teaching through the story, the oral process. Purpose is to add learning within the children. Storytelling serves a number of purposes in the classroom. It's not only entertain. Sometimes there are a number of occasions where we can narrate a story. One for teaching some vital life values, some life skills. Sometimes we start narrating a story just to correlate the example that we write on the board, or sometimes when we see that the class is getting bored now, so it is better to tell some kind of a story than we narrate a story. For entertainment sake as well. A storytelling method. It is a skill wherein the narrator communicates to the listeners through oral and non-verbal gesture. This withholds attention of the listeners. In fact, it is an art in itself, which aims at presenting to the students through the medium of a speech which is clear, vivid, and interesting with ordered sequences of events in such a way that the students are able to reconstruct these happenings and they live in their imagination through experiences recounted. So what we see that when the instructor or the teacher is telling the story, the students they imagine. When we in English there was a Martha. It is said about Martha that she was the greatest storyteller in the world. When she started narrating the story, the entire students or the children used to get captivated in her, narration, and they completely forgot that they are sitting somewhere in the, valley in some field. So, how much efficient you are in narrating the story, it depends on you. A storytelling method. What are the methods? A teacher's capacity as an actor and a speaker can make a lesson lively and interesting to the students. They can make our students almost visualize the events and the personalities concerned. To keep the listeners on track, the narrator asks simple questions in between, which require to be answered in 1 or 2 words. This method. So, when the teacher or the speaker or any actor is telling the story in the classroom or to some audience, there may be a small or large audience, it doesn't matter. But when the narrator is narrating, the narrator should depict, they must possess such ability that he should present the entire story in a very vivid and very he should be able to depict the entire picture. The speaker or the teacher must have the art, pictorial art, the ability to create a picture in the minds of the listener or the students, so that the students or the audience may imagine the things which is being said to them in an oral form. This method is suitable to teach social science, especially history, at the elementary stage. This would arouse interest of children and provide them scope for imaginative understanding and through enjoyment. In the passage of history, suppose you are teaching medieval ages, it becomes sometimes very boring when teacher starts teaching factuals like date and all names and factual things. Then it requires it is very much essential for the teacher to narrate a story, any story from medieval age which may arouse interest among the students. It may invoke their endowment interest which is still there in the students. So, and that too in an enjoyment process. When we narrate a story, it's a very interesting. We also sometimes we all used to, even today when we all teachers start telling about particular event in the classroom related to our personal experience, then the students listen it carefully. They listen it and they want to narrate, they want to insist that sir, please one more stories from what you have experienced in your life. So that is experiential story. Such other stories can be narrated in the classroom. Next. What does storytelling does? So the question arises before us, what kind of work does it do? किस तरह का काम ये करता है? What kind of thing that we learn from the storytelling, or what are the things that a storytelling in a classroom or anywhere does? Real life experiences based storage. While telling a story, telling in the classroom is very important for every teacher and in every subject, Because stories are not only from Mahabharata, Ramayana, Panchatantra or some other. There are number varied example of stories. Like here, real life experiences based on stories. Like you have experienced some certain things in your personal life, and you can correlate that incident here in the classroom when you are teaching a particular topic. So it would be real, real life experience before the student might not have gone through it because they are not of that age. So if you teach them, they will keep it in mind that no, sir has taught this story, means if it is wrong to him, then it should also be wrong to me as well. So they will correlate themselves. Second, like stories relating to real and current events. Current events, some incidents happens like when you are going from school. Something happened next day when you are coming and teaching in the classroom. Some certain situation appear before you wherein you can re-narrate the same incident that happened with you the last day. Stories from history, story of legends in history. History is full of stories, so we can take any one of them which we find as in that class or in the situation. We can narrate that. Mythical stories or stories based on imagination. Mythical stories can also be narrated just to teach them values, life and social values and moral values, with which we find that the students lack these days. So to instill moral values on the students, we can take example of mythical stories and re-narrate whenever the situation or time permits, we can do it. Uses of storytelling method to catch attention of non-attentive learners. Like a class of 40 students will have 40 different interests. Personally, they will have a different interest. So narrating a simple story may not, provoke or arouse interest among every student of the class or 40. So we as an instructor, as a facilitator, we need to understand what kind of interest the students whom you are teaching they have in, and as per their interest, as per the need, you try to narrate a story. Suppose you are teaching science, then you narrate a story related to your subject only, and also keeping in view of the students' interest, so that the class remains interested, the student take participation in what you are telling, narrating, and through the story the student may also be able to learn some value or some message. Use of real life stories for encouragement, like real life values. If you want to narrate, then it would encourage the student. Suppose I generally say that I was very weak when I was in English, but now I am teaching here English. I narrate so that the student may learn some kind of lesson that if sir can do better, then why I can't do. So they can correlate it with their personal life. Use of stories for teaching social values. Social values, there is a social crisis nowadays that we see around us. So we can also teach them a story, narrate them some story in which we find that there is a social message, there is a social value hidden in the story. That story we can narrate to the student. Use of storytelling for presenting social issues. Use of storytelling for introducing topic. These are the varied opportunities where we can narrate a story. Like use of storytelling for presenting a social issues. There is a problem, social problem in our society. In newspaper, we have read that some problem is going on, social problem is there. So we can narrate a story on that basis, so that the students or the audience may have a clear picture of the issue. Use of storytelling for starting a topic. You are starting a topic, so simply going in the classroom, writing something on the board, and you started the topic, it would not interest the student. Maybe some serious students are there, they are very much interested. Some of the students are not interested in listening to a story. Some of them are very much interested only in listening the story. So we have to see the entire class, and keeping in view of the whole class, or the interest of the entire student, we need to introduce or tell a story. So before starting a topic, we can correlate uh, the topic by telling a story. use of, use, sorry, use of a story as an example. एंटीडॉट्स वगैरह हम लोग यूज करते हैं इंग्लिश में. एज एन एग्जाम्पल वी कैन ऑल्सो यूज a story. Instead of giving an example, we just give a small story to the student, and that will be, that will be forever in the minds of the students. Because whenever the question will come, particular question, whatever the story you have narrated or correlated at the time of teaching, that will be reflected there. Use of a story for bringing fun and enjoyment in classroom. And obviously a story is one of the best way. We all know that whenever we want some kind of entertainment, because our brain cannot be serious for the entire session, so entertainment is also required in between. And the same thing is for the students. So we can use a story for the sake of entertainment. Even if you are teaching maths or some computer science, even then, when they are fed up with what you are teaching, let them rest for some time. Okay, I am telling a story, listen carefully, and they will like it. Next, sir. Children usually enjoy hearing same story many times. For instance, children, if you keep on telling them one story each and every day, they will never tell you, sir, stop it. Very few students, they might object that, sir, every day you are telling a story. Instead of storytelling, you teach us something. If you are not teaching, then otherwise, if you are teaching and simultaneously you are also narrating them a story, then it is the story they are getting in bonus, so they will appreciate it. And if that carries value, some kind of lesson, then they won't object about it. So by using this all, like you can tell the story using a picture book or a vinyl board and movable characters in the classroom. Generally these things are performed in the junior classes, and in junior classes some kind of cartoons, sketches, they are shown to the children. Teacher enact the story, and with the help of that, you can tell or read the story while children move puppets or dolls, or as they wear masks and act out the story. So act in junior classes, these all can be performed. Putting on mask on the face, story can be narrated just for the sake of entertaining the students, or by moving puppets, dolls, etc. You can tell a story while children draw it. You narrate a story. There are different way of narrating a story in the process of learning and teaching. You are narrating a story. Yes, there is a boy. Okay, there is a boy. They made a picture of a boy. They are sitting in the room. Then they will draw a room around it. Okay. He is sitting in the center of the benches. Okay, so they will again draw the picture of different number of benches around the boy, and this way, the entire story, your story will be completed, and simultaneously his drawing is also completed. So this way you can also narrate a story to teach them how to draw it. You can tell a version of a familiar story by a different author and illustrate same kind of a story. I too have studied a number of story which has been written by a number of authors or writers. So like there are a number of stories. Like whenever we in class 10, I think later to God, whenever we teach, then we used to recite about what was going on, what was prescribed in CBSE 10th class in English. Earlier there was a later one. So we try to narrate that story also, just to correlate that later. And there are so many stories in English or even in Hindi related to later. We can illustrate, we can describe in within a very small time. Children may listen to tape recorder story together or individually using earphones, or we do have audio video facility in our school. They can listen, learn, and they can play also tape recorder, mobile phone. We can narrate them with the help of this. So learning objective. Now, if we are narrating a story, then there must be some objective. There is nothing in this world that we don't do without any objective. Even if we come to school, we come with an objective. Maybe our objective might not be teaching the students, but earning is our objective. This is the basic objective that we come here for. Or some of us might have this earning objective second. First, we have transferring knowledge. So it depends. So here, a storytelling in classroom does have objective, like develops imagination. When you narrate a story, earlier in our childhood, my grandfather used to narrate me a story, which nowadays I don't find. ये जो किस्सा होता था, और वो किस्सा आज किताबों में नहीं होते, आप सब भी सुने होंगे। उनका पर्पस होता था, हम लोग रात में सो करके कभी कभी तो 4-4, 3-3 बज जाते थे किस्सा सुनते सुनते, और वो करते थे कुपारी भरो, बीच बीच में बोलते रहते थे अच्छा इसके बाद का होगा, और वो एक एक कहानियां 2-2 रात भी खत्म नहीं हुआ करता था। वो स्टोरीज क्या करता था कि वो ऐसे बताते थे ना, लगता था कि बस हाँ ये हो रहा है। जंगल में गया, जंगल में वो वहाँ पे जाता है, 4 भाई है, चारों एक वृक्ष मिलता है, वहाँ से 4 रास्ते जाते हैं, चारों भाई अपना अपना तलवार 4 दिशा में, वृक्ष में ही 4 दिशाओं में वो उसको पंच कर देते हैं, मतलब उसको ये टेस्टिंग कर देते हैं और वो चले जाते हैं इन सर्च ऑफ द क्वीन। ऐसे बताते थे तो लगता था कि ये रियली इट इज ऑल हैपनिंग हियर। So when you narrate a story, it develops imagination or imagining power. Next है trends in helps create mind pictures. A true story is one which has a pictorial quality. सही में वही कहानी होता है जो आप सुनकर के अपने दिमाग में पिक्चर क्रिएट कर लें। स्टोरी हैविंग पिक्चर स्क्यू और पिक्टोरियल क्वालिटी, दैट इज a true story. Trends in making inferences, predictions, and filling in the gaps. There are a number of varied stories wherein we can कभी तो प्रिडिक्शन करने में, इन्फ्लुएंस ये करने में, अर्थ निकालने में हमें मदद करती है, गैप फिल करने में। सपोज इन इंग्लिश इट कम्स स्टोरी राइटिंग है, स्टोरी का 2 लाइन दे दिया, फिर एक गैप दे दिया, 2 लाइन दिया, फिर गैप दे दिया। इट्स अ वेरी पॉपुलर स्टोरी। Students have to fill in the gaps because they know the story, what is the fill in gap. So they fill in. Students develop a relation with the narrator. When you are narrating a story, you develop a kind of relation with the listener by narrating the story, and promotes involvement. When students are being told a story, their involvement must be there. Sometimes, time to time, we keep on asking, okay, what happened to that the last prince who went in the north? Then the student will reply, sir, he went there and he lost in the big huge market. What was his motto? He forgot all. He started enjoying life. He did not care about his goal and all. But the rest, 3 other brothers, they were still searching for their goals. So when we ask questions in between, they keep their interest alive. The stories are created and concrete and help students develop concept. Story also develop concept. Actually, मैं बहुत बड़े से बड़ा कंसेप्ट को अगर क्लियर करना है, स्मॉल स्टोरी में हम लोग उसको बच्चे को कंसेप्ट बता सकते हैं। वी कैन डेवलप द कंसेप्ट ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स बाय नरेटिंग अ स्टोरी. स्टोरी टेलिंग इज अ पावरफुल टूल ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन एंड असेसमेंट. सो इट्स अ वेरी पावरफुल इंस्ट्रूमेंट. वी ऑल नो, हम सब जानते हैं, पहले के एजुकेशन सिस्टम में आज से 60, 70, 80 साल या 100 साल पहले रखिए, ना कंप्यूटर साइंस था, ना इतना साइंस का भरमार था, ना तो मैथमेटिक्स का इतना सिलेबस था. Whatever there was in the syllabus was stories, poems, from Ramayana, Mahabharata, and they were only the part of syllabus. And when we sometimes we hear that our Gautam Buddha, he completed education within 4 years. What was the education system, and how did he completed his education within 4 years? So when you go through the texts of history, you find that what kind of subjects were there at that time. Only Vedas were there. Means that too, it was in not as we have it today. So the knowledge, the sphere of knowledge was very limited. So it was easy for him to complete his education within 4 years. Now we have completed so many subjects, disciplines. So it is very impossible. Next, students. When we narrate a story, the narrator improves so many things. Simultaneously, the students and the audience, they also learn and improve so many things. Like improve verbal skills, they learn how to pronunciate a particular word. We all know that the children born in America or England, they start speaking in the same accent as their parents right from the beginning. Why? Because they listen the same tone, and that is why they speak in the same tone. Here in our homes, when they become quite efficient to listen and comprehend the meaning of a particular word or sentence, they listen. अरे छोड़ा कहाँ देती सुने नहीं. So similar kind of tone they adapt. So it is improve verbal skill when we teach them language. Gain self confidence. ये सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस अपने आप को देता है. द मेनी लैंग्वेजेस यू नो, द मोर कॉन्फिडेंट यू फील. जितनी भाषाएं जानेंगे उतना कॉन्फिडेंट आप होंगे. एंड इट इज इन रियल, ये सही में होता है. दोज हु आर नॉट गुड इन इंग्लिश, दे स्टैमर, दे will always be confidenceless whenever they will go to the principal ma'am. When she starts speaking, why don't you speak in English? Okay, ma'am, I'll try. So why you are confidenceless there? What is that? Language. You have command over 2 languages, 3 languages, 4 languages. You need to be more confident, and not only confident in that, you are also mentally rich, because you can comprehend the meaning of texts or stories or books or related things from different languages. So you have wider knowledge, and that gives you more confidence. Discover the meaning of events. When you narrate a story, you discover particular meaning, because narrating a story is also discovering things. Why do we narrate a story? Just to get some information, discover something. जब हम यहाँ से वास्को डिगामा मान लिया इंडिया आ रहा था, चला गया वो अमेरिका जाना था, वो चला गया इंडिया. He wanted to discover, that is why he set on the writing. Otherwise, he would have set off. So when we are narrating a story, by narrating a story, we also want to discover something, some objective behind it in the story. Develop students understand the message readily and retain key points long. You have taught a particular fact to the student in the classroom during your teaching, and the other teacher who has taught the same fact during his teaching, but he tried to narrate a story relating to that fact. Then the student who has been narrated a story, then their retention of that fact will be higher than the student who were simply taught the fact. This is the fact that we all know. A storytelling effectively enhances the perception of the teacher as a leader. We all know that. What is that? 240. I don't know what it is. 237. Teacher become approachable and likable. Teacher, I hope you all understand. Because when we human being can be connected only by two means. One, if we have some financial, accessibility, then, or when we have some emotional accessibility, then in two conditions we get attracted towards each other. Next, elements of storytelling. Both have, there are so many elements in the storytelling. These are the things like the plot, character, theme, dialogue, melody, chorus, decor, a spectacle. Okay, next. Plot. It is said that in this world there are 7 things, 7 wonders, 7 wonders of the world. In each and every frame, as we have made our perception, हम लोगों ने एक राय बना ली है कि there are 7 things like 7 wonders of the world. सुर के साथ सुर होते हैं. Similarly, there are seven sequences. So we also have developed that there are only 7 plots in the world on which the entire story is written. Whatever story you take, Mahabharata, Ramayana, you take Merchant of Venice, or in any language, anything written, any story written, those all can be, adjusted in any one of the 7 plots. So plot is a very essential thing, like it is the most important part of the story and tells us what the story is all about. Like guess plot, battle for a kingdom. If I say this, you can imagine battle for a kingdom. There are number of stories you will recall in your mind in which the prince or somebody has fought for characters, the character of the story, like people in the story who are using some language. Next sir. Theme it says like it tells use it tells us the setting where the story is taking place. It influences the plot and develops the story. Like good good conquers over evil. It's a kind of a thing around which the thing is set. Dialogue, the people speaking particular language in that story is called dialogue. And melody and chorus. Melody means the sweetness, or the melody. Chorus means the familiar part, pattern that resonates with our emotions and convictions. Whatever we have thought, or whatever conviction, notions we have, and as per that, if it song, then okay, fine. It has chorus and melody. These are the part of a storytelling. During the storytelling, you will have, to maintain all these things. Next, sir. Decor, it's the decorum, physical appearance, gesture, posture. As I'm a teacher of language, so when I'm teaching, I do sometimes become a serious, sometimes funny, in act funny way. A spectacle, some tell twists and turns in the story, which is surprised and shocking. Next, total physical response. While you are narrating a story in the classroom, the students will have total physical response. That means they should be listening. When you say something serious, they should show seriousness on their face. You should also be able to use TTR so that the student can have the entire story before them and can create a pictorial thing in their mind. Next, teaching grammar. So by narrating a story, we also try to teach them grammar, like vocabulary, sentence, coherence. We also try to teach them how to, use vocabulary, in what portion, in what way the particular word should be used. And there are so many things that we tell or try to teach our students through the story, like whatever a story is prescribed in any class. The purpose of that text or the poem of a story is not only to pass on what is the story of Mr. So and so, but to teach also the rules and vocabulary, rules of grammar, vocabulary, how to pronunciate that word, those words, etc. Next, sir. All in all, when teachers notice errors in grammar, vocabulary and pronunciation, they can choose from range of strategies. Now, when the teacher or the instructor, facilitator has narrated the story, then they can ask the students to re-narrate the same story and try to find out the error where they do mistake. What kind of mistake they will do when they are speaking? First, ignore their error, because if you will keep on, pointing them that here you should not use this word. Then the entire story the student will forget. So let them speak whatever they are speaking. Don't interrupt. Next, make a mental note whenever they are committing mistake during the story narration. Make mentally a note that here this boy has missed something. रिफ्रेश द सेंटेंस, बच्चे से बताइए कि इसको दूसरे तरह से सेंटेंस को फ्रेम करो. रिफ्रेश एंड एक्सपैंड. टेल द स्टूडेंट टू रिफ्रेश द व्हाटएवर दे हैव स्पोकन, रिफ्रेश इट एंड एक्सटेंड इट एंड प्रेजेंट लेसन टू अ ग्रुप. द होल क्लास, लास्ट में क्लास टॉपिक दे दीजिए, स्टोरी देंगे.